Hi guys, how are we today? Want to do a quick video because a viewer asked if I could tell them this real quick. They were asking me how I sharpen my knives. Now, there's two main ways that I do it, but the way that I recommend is with a guided sharpening system. It takes a little bit less practice to get a good edge on. You can get one very quickly than freehand stones. Now the one I have here is a Lansky or Lansky, however you want to pronounce that. Real quick though, the other way that I'll use is for some tools I like to have a convex edge on, in which case I will use the edge or the work sharp. Now this does put in a convex edge, which means that rather than having your standard edge that is more of a V, you actually have something that's more, well, that's really uneven, but you don't have those hard edges. It's a real slow curve, which actually makes for a really great slicing edge. I just personally don't like how it looks on some knives, so I like to stick to the more traditional edge types a lot of times. Now, that one does take a very little practice to get a good edge on, and that's one of the great things about it. But that being said, I was just refurbishing this knife for someone, and I used the Lansky on this, and you can see that it is quite the slicer now. So, that does have a polished edge after a stropping, and it doesn't take too long to get. So, let's get into it real quick. Basically, with the work sharp here, you have your guided system where you can set the angle that you want. That slides right on here and snaps down, and you basically run this slack belt. And if we take a knife here, you can see as I put that in there, it's going to push that belt down, which makes the belt curve around the blade a little bit, essentially giving you that convex edge shape. So that's how that works. Now with this one, if you do decide to go with a work sharp, it takes off a lot of material really fast, so you got to be careful with that and kind of try and move slow when you're doing that. As far as the Lansky though, because I want to talk about this one more, this is how I would recommend you sharpen your knives if you're going to do it, especially if you want the traditional sharpening rather than a convex edge. Essentially, this kit comes with the guide rails. We'll just pull one out here. You have your guided system. Now that this clamps onto the knife, and then you can see your different degree measurements. So you have 17, 20, 25, and 30 degrees for your edge angles. And then I don't think I've ever seen one that doesn't come with some honing oil. You can use, some people use it, some people don't. I like to use it. It helps keep some of the metal that you take off from filling up your stones. Mine are a little bit dirty right now, but essentially what you want to do is wherever you decide to start. So on this one here, for example, I was completely reprofiling the blade. It had some really bad chips in it, so I started on my coarse stone here to get rid of those and reprofile everything before moving on up. If you're doing a job where, say, the knife is already relatively sharp, it's just not as sharp as you want, you might start on even the fine or the fine, which is a 600 grit on this one, or the extra fine, or ultra fine they call it. which is the yellow, which is 1000 grit, depending on how bad it is. Just make sure that if you do start, it's better to start on something that's a little bit too fine than on something that's too coarse, because you don't want to remove that material too fast. So I'm not going to sharpen an entire knife. That's a little bit too time consuming for what I want to do in this video. But real quick, because when I first got this one, I had a lot of trouble getting it set up where I could get a good edge. So I want to talk about that real quick. Essentially what you do is you've got your L-shaped guide rod here, and you want to put it up from below on your sharpening stone. Once that's in place, you want to set it down on a flat surface. This is a bad example because this is a soft surface, but something like a hard table, and kind of hold that all down, and then tighten that set screw down so that you've got your stone clamped on. Now, the thing that I did not realize at first, and I'm not sure if it says it in a manual and I just missed it, or what, is that once that's done, you want to set it down on that flat surface and make sure that you bend this bar so that it's flat. So when you push down, you don't want the bar up off. You can see mine is up off of the table right now, and you don't want it lifting up in the center either. So you want that to be completely flat, otherwise you're really going to get some awful results. So real quick, I'm just going to bend that down a little bit more. Now you want to do this with all of your stones and make sure when you're setting them up, since it does have the multiple ones, you want to set all those up and make sure that they're all flat. So once that's done, you move to your clamp, and you're going to take the flat of your blade and line it up within these grooves here. So we'll stick that flat area right in there until it stops. Let's see here, this is a funky blade. For this blade, I'm actually going to move back a little bit further. For a more traditional blade, such as this guy here, he'll just slide right in there and clamps right down like that. For this guy, because it's such a funky ramp shape, such a major clip point, we're actually going to pull him back further in the clamp so that we have somewhat of a parallel line to the flat of our blade. So you want to try and make these parallel as well, between loosening and tightening this screw. That way you've got the proper angles back here on your angle guides. I'm not going to worry about that too much for this demonstration, but that's about how it should look. Depending on the knife, your knife should be secure in there. It's okay if it wobbles a little bit. Just try and get it tightened down as much as you can so that it's not going to slide out on you. Once it's in there, then what you need to do is find the angle of your blade, and there's a few ways to do this. You can either just eyeball it if you're going to be reprofiling that angle already, or you can take a Sharpie and mark down that edge of your blade, and then starting at whatever angle you feel might be it, this one looks to be about that 20-degree angle there, you want to take a couple of passes, and what that's going to do, we'll put a little mark here. Can you see that? What that's going to do is, if you've got the correct angle, you're going to see it taking that off very evenly, just like that. So you can see that mark's already gone, so we know that we're at the correct angle. So once you've got the correct angle, what you're going to want to do is you want to make sure that, because these are wider than that rod, so you can see I can move it back and forth, you want to either stay on the top of that hole or the bottom to keep a very consistent angle. I tend to like to stay towards the bottom, and if you don't have one of the stands for these that kind of holds it in place, I typically hold it in my hand in sort of this manner, and I will move up and down the blade like that. Make sure that you push down over the knife blade and not behind, otherwise you're going to start bending this a little bit and getting that inconsistent angle. So you're just going to rub that down on your blade, making sure to keep a consistent angle. Now, if you're reprofiling the blade, what you want to do is you want to grind with your coarser stones until you feel a burr on the other side. Flip it over, grind, and be sure to always check the centering of your grinds. Make sure that those are staying centered. Count your swipes across the blade, whatever you need to do to keep that a centered grind. Otherwise, you know, it's just not going to be as nice of an edge as you want. So real quick, we will go ahead and do the other side a little bit. I will typically use, it's sort of a downward motion and then up and then down again, just to go across the entire edge of the blade. This is a little bit hard to do. I normally hold it closer to my body. Once you've got that edge on there, move up all through. You know, you start at your coarser stones, move up to your next stone. Once you've had a burr on both sides, get the burr again, next stone, get the burr again on both sides, and then your final stone. Now I upgraded, this actually comes with an extra coarse stone, the one that I had. I never used it because it was just too coarse for anything that I might do. So what I did was I put that one aside and I picked up this sapphire stone, which is a 2000 grit, so that I can go from the 1000 grit or ultra fine to the sapphire stone 2000 grit. Now once you have that completely done, and your blade should be quite sharp at that point. If it's not, then it means that you were either rattling within this or your rods were not straight and you weren't getting that consistent angle. So once you've got it to a pretty good sharpness, it will be a little bit more polished than this one would be normally. I then take it to a leather strop. This is just a, I think it's 1.5 inches by 7.5 inches long, and it's just a piece of leather with some jeweler's rouge on it. Actually, this side here has Mother's Mag and aluminum polish. This side has jeweler's rouge. This is the best way to get your blade to that hair popping sharp. Once you've got a good edge on it, you want to polish the edge, and this is a good maintenance thing. If your knife is just not quite as sharp as you want it, maybe you don't even need the stones yet, and all you need to do is strop the blade. So what I do with this is I would set it on the edge of my desk, and you take the knife and drag it across just like you would if you've ever shaved with a straight razor. And what this is doing is it's like a really fine sharpening stone, and you can see already between the two edges, there's that edge, and there's the edge that I've stropped just a couple of times. You're going to get a really fine edge on it quite quickly. Now, you don't necessarily need any jeweler's rouge or anything on the strop itself. I just find that it takes a little bit less time if you do have some jeweler's rouge, and you get better results. So that's how I sharpen my knives. You don't have to sharpen them this way, and I'm not saying that I'm the best or that everything I do is correct. There's certainly people that are better, and if you can afford a more expensive sharpening system such as the Edge Pro Apex or something like that, go for it, because those are absolutely better than this sharpening system. But this one's extremely affordable. I think I paid between $30 and $50 for this system, which you really can't beat for some quality stones. So if you have any questions, feel free to comment below. If you enjoy my videos, make sure to subscribe as well. And have a great day, guys. Thanks so much for watching.